Hope the first share was recorded and will be uploaded. Okay, so continuing in the Alter Rebbe. I'm sorry?
This one does not say live. Oh, yeah, now it does.
Okay. So we continue with Alter Rebbe. לפיכך הנגל לקנח מן עליהם בברזל הקבוע לפני פסח בית הכנסת ליפה ימויסם שרחד כמגב הסכן ולכן צורך לעשוי סוי אב ורוחב בראשו. Tez Zayin and Alter Rebbe. Those that customarily scrape off their shoes on a metal that is affixed in front of the door of the shul. They used to have this metal rod that you could use to scrape your shoes off the mud. It's not good for Shabbos because they would used to make it sharp like a knife. Therefore, he says you should make it wide and blunt at the head.
This is a boot scraper, is it?
A boot scraper, exactly. Exactly. Now, I did see a svara, which is a chiddush, and therefore I'm not saying that it's a psak lemaisa, but I did see a svara from Rav Shlomo Zalman that our shoes doesn't apply to our shoes. They used to have soft leather, and it used to just scrape off very easily, and it doesn't happen with our shoes. And it's a chiddush. I'm not saying it's the mice. I'm not saying everybody agrees with it, but that's what Shlomo Zalman says. Okay, Yud Zayin, Titcha Gabe Bigdoi, mud that is on a person's garment. Lo Yishav Shefoi Mibachutz. You should not scrape it from the outside. Which is in the place of the mud itself. Because that looks like cleaning it. He should
Which opinion you said in the beginning when you took the jacket? You saw two ways to clean it.
This is the Gemara. There's not been a parents. Why are you saying Rabbeinu Peretz?
Who was the opinion that you said from the inside to Sukkah?
That's just the way I understood it.
Oh, it wasn't like that. Oh, sorry.
That's just the way I understood it.
So this is the way the Alter Rebbe is thinking.
How do you do it? You hold the beged on the garment, and on the other side, opposite the mud, and you rub it there. Shows that then then it's not so clear that you're removing the tit. That it should look like malabin.
And we don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we?
No. Can't wet it at all. Now, my question is, if you understand it the way Rabbi Ribiat understands it, that you're not actually rubbing the garment, you're just rubbing the opposite on the other side and kind of making it fall off. How do you expect that to happen in the Taz's case?
In what?
In the case of the Taz. The Taz says that if there's only the remnant left over, then you're allowed to do it.
But also from the back, no?
Exactly. Now, how are you going to do it?
Regardless, it's only from the back.
I understand that, but how are you going to do that in the way he's describing it? You understand?
Yeah, but
Thank you. One second. If it's the way I understood it, so you're actually rubbing it against itself, I understand. But if you're just going back and forth like that, and there's nothing actually on the surface, it's all the embedded stuff inside, how is that going to do anything? I don't know.
Yeah, but
I don't know what he means.
If you scrap it from the inside, don't forget already the jacket like few layers, but if you break it from the inside.
How do you break it from the inside?
If you have something over here, you just go from the in, because leather is flexible. So
yeah, but that's if it's a piece that's on the top. But in the Taz's case, where it's just the roishim, you understand? Just the particles, how is the inside going to get off the particle? I just don't understand.
I'm gonna call it later.
I don't know.
But this is what he meant.
I don't know. It's not so clear to me. We have to figure it out. I'm not sure. I have the Taz. He actually doesn't say to do it from the inside of that case. He just says, he doesn't mention from the inside, but the Mishnah Berurah, when he quotes this Taz, he also says you could also do it from the inside.
Also or only?
No. Either tziparin, or the sakin, or the inside. Just like in Shulchan Aruch. But I'm saying, how can you do the inside if it's that way? I don't understand it. Okay. The point is, you could also scrape off the mud with your fingernail, with a knife, even with a sharp edge, and it's not considered a machik. And again, like we said before, you have to make sure you're obviously not squeezing anything out of the garment.
By the way, this Siman design that I was speaking about, dry mud or lach?
This is lach. Yud Ches is going to be dry. Oh no, right here. Sorry, right here. That's only if it's moist. Al betit yavesh. In Yud Zayin. Yeah, al betit yavesh. But if it's dry, some say you can't even do it from the inside. How much more so not to scrape it? Because the tit hayavish is going to break up into small pieces. They shifshuf through the rubbing, or grader or scratching, whereas a ke'ein told us a tochen. And therefore this is like tochen. You're breaking up one thing into many small pieces. But there's no isser. Because you don't need the object that you're breaking up. Vinit Chanan is being crushed. Even if you say that you're chayav l'chsach legufa, over here giving l'chsach legufa at davar mispar, because you don't need that object. Ein pirzah tel this atochen. Therefore, it is not a tool of tochen. Shein derech l'tchanel l'chsach legufa davar nitchan. It's not a normal thing to grind when you don't need the thing that you're grinding. Not a normal thing. It's one thing when it comes to other malachas. You make a hole, and you need the dirt. You don't need the hole. Okay, that's a malacha sh'tzarich l'gufa. But over here, where you're doing an act of grinding, and you don't need the thing that you're grinding at all. Nothing. You don't need it. You just need to clean the thing that it's on. So that's not like a malacha at all. Even the opinion that says that malacha sh'tzarich l'gufa is chayiv is not going to say chayiv in this case, because over here you're not accomplishing anything. Right? There's no purpose in this object at all. So, now he quotes the Taz. When do we say this? When there is some actual mud. And when he scrapes it, the pieces fall off. This is like that. But if it only has the appearance of the mud, meaning to say not the substance, just the stuff that's absorbed. And he's scratching over there to remove it. This is not like tochen. And it's allowed. Right? This is clearly not like the Mishnah Berurah. Yes, like the Taz. So too, if a person has a garment that is a little bit dirty, and there is no actuality of junk, only the color, you're allowed to scrape there and remove the mire because it is found in order to daven in a state of cleanliness. Even though you could daven without scraping it off, like we explained Siman Ayin Vav in terms of davening, unless it's actually smells, it's not going to be a problem. Right? Just the mara. No actual substance, just the mara left over on a garment. If it doesn't smell, you would be allowed to daven. All right.
Can you moisten dry mud on the garment to well, yeah, something dry, could you moisten it so you could get it off using the ways of a davar lach?
Actually, he's going to discuss that right now in the Alter Rebbe. So let's read right on in Yutes. Min ol a sandal, a shoe or a sandal, sheyesh alav titoy tsoya, that has mud or junk on it. Tsoya is excrement. Mutar l'shachshechay b'mayim, la'avir me'olav. You are allowed to, how do I translate l'shachshechay? Let me see if I have it.
So this is specifically leather and not fabric, yes?
Absolutely. Specifically leather, not fabric. If you have fabric shoes, canvas shoes, or something like that, you definitely cannot do that. Matomer?
To shake it in the water.
To shake. I hear. Rinse it. It's also l'shafshef, we're going to see. So you can't actually rub it. As mazel l'shafshef.
Let's say you put like a kind of water, you want to put your shoes on, and shake your water, but you move your leg.
Okay. You can move the leg in the water or the leather in the water, but you can't rub it at the same time. You can't rub it at the same time.
Then your socks is going to be wet.
Let's continue, Rabbi Say. So to any other leather item. So you're allowed to put water on them to remove the lichluch, or to rinse it in water actually until it passes. This is not considered washing. Rafael, listen here. Rinsing leather is not considered kibbutz. That's not an effective way to clean leather. I think it's in the Gemara, if I'm not mistaken, actually. So the point is that washing clothes is effective when you use when you use water. Washing leather is not effective with water alone. Water with rubbing is. Now, if you're going to take it together with the water and you're going to rub one side and the other so that the water really helps you clean it properly, that's not allowed. That is kibbutz gomer va'aser. It's also forbidden with leather. And the Alter Rebbe says, only midrabanan. But minatayra, you're not chayiv even if you squeezed it afterwards. So minatayra, it seems like leather, there is no isser of cleaning leather minatayra at all. Maybe just because the nature of leather is that it doesn't really get so dirty, it doesn't really absorb these things and so on. Maybe it's just not similar enough to a garment. It's only midrabanan. But in any case, if you rub it, then it's midrabanan. It is considered kibbutz.
I have some questions about different fabrics.
Yeah, go ahead.
A raincoat that's made out of a plastic material is not a problem to rinse off, correct?
Certainly not to rinse. And I saw a svara that says that even rubbing should be okay with plastic, because leather, after all, does absorb a little bit, but plastic, which doesn't absorb anything, you should even be allowed to rub. But it's not so clear. Not everybody agrees with that. But certainly something hard, like a countertop, there is no issue to even rub. Obviously,
okay.
Sponge or a rag or anything like that, but the very act of rubbing with water is not washing if it's like a hard surface.
Okay, so next, so wool is definitely a problem. And a shubber sponge, which is one of those loose, hard plastic things, is not a problem, correct?
Yeah.
So what happens when we get to plastic-based materials like acrylic and polyester? What's the deal there?
If I'm not mistaken, Shlomo Zalman considers synthetic fabrics to be the same as natural fabrics as far as cleaning them.
So
Even though the argument could be made that because they're not natural, maybe they're not included like leather, but he understands that since they look like regular garments, he understands that they are usser.
and most sponges are actually made out of plastic. It's a plastic-like, it's a sponge-like plastic.
Right.
That's definitely a problem on Shabbos, is it?
Yeah, it
In
absorbs.
the same way that acrylic is a problem.
Yeah.
So at what point does something stop being acrylic fabric and turn into, I mean, a matzah box, a you know those see-through plastic boxes that you put your matzahs in, the square ones? I saw one once and I realized it was made out of acrylic. And there are a lot of things that are acrylic.
I don't know what you mean by a see-through plastic box.
Oh, plastic. A lot of clear plastic that's used for, I don't know, dining ware is actually acrylic. You have acrylic nails. Acrylic is a kind of plastic.
Right.
When does something go from being a raincoat, which is acceptable, to an acrylic jumper, which is not acceptable to wash? Where's the distinction made?
I mean, it seems to me that if it is able to absorb, that would be the difference.
So the fibers themselves don't necessarily absorb in the same way that wool fiber does, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually researched this. I happened to be researching it last week because I was doing a wool wash,
Mm-hmm.
and I read a lot about different fabrics.
Right.
And I thought it was very interesting that wool behaves in a different way to, say, acrylic fabric. That's why you'd never use fabric softener in wool. But you do use fabric softener for other things. So when we say absorb, does that mean if it's turned into thread and woven, then you can't do that? Because there are some things that are made out of a coarse plastic thread which quite obviously don't absorb.
Right.
How do you gauge?
You mean if it's made into a thread but it still doesn't absorb?
Yeah, there's some raincoats that so I assume that vinyl it does not absorb, although the fabric behind it might, because often vinyl is on top of a fabric or fabric-like lattice.
Right.
But then you've got I've seen some raincoats that appear to be made out of a woven type material, but that woven type material is a hard, scratchy material that wouldn't absorb anything, and hence that's why it's used as a raincoat.
Right.
So do you just use your judgment and say it appears to be absorbing?
Not really sure.
And is acrylic a deraisa or a derabanan?
Let me see. I took a picture of that chiddush about Shlomo Zalman. Let me see.
Sultan. Sultan, you gotta join the class. Don't just come from Maribel.
Working brown? No. 30 or?
Almost.
It's almost good.
You want a Coke?
No, thank you. Thank you.
That's amazing.
She's good, she's great. Thank
Okay, here it is. Garments that are woven of nylon threads. Shlomo Zalman says that since the water, you listening, Yossi?
I am.
Since the water, choydrim, it pierces. How do you say choydrim? It penetrates. That's the word. It penetrates between the threads. Therefore, it should be considered like other garments, and putting water on it would be considered washing. And he brings a bunch of other achronim that agree with him. So that's what.
How is that different to a Shabbos sponge?
How is it different to a Shabbos sponge?
It's only skita, it's not washing.
Water goes in between the little bubbles, or whatever they're called.
Does it stay there or just run straight through it? I think that's the whole point of a Shabbos sponge, that the water doesn't actually stay there. It's supposed to just.
Well, it does. If I soak a Shabbos sponge and bring it out and shake it for about 5 seconds, I would be willing to put down money that I could squeeze out another couple of drops if I tried.
I mean, there is a whole nother argument about a Shabbos sponge, that since it is actually, its use is to clean, that's its function, that when you put water on it, it's not considered cleaning it. You see what I'm saying? That argument,
Say that of an acrylic sponge.
that can be made, and that is going to be discussed later. But then again, when it comes to schita, we're not going to use that argument. But maybe for kibbutz, that argument can be made. Yeah. In any case, even if you want to argue that point, it would still be schita midrabanan, because the hair, for example, that absorbs a little bit, doesn't really absorb, but it gets stuck. The particles of water will get stuck between the hairs. So midrabanan, you can't squeeze it out. And the same thing certainly would apply to synthetic materials. But he's not talking about schita here. He's talking about actual washing. That if it absorbs in between the woven threads, then it is similar enough to a garment to be considered washing. In other words, the idea is, if I'm understanding correctly, again, I'm not answering the question with a sponge, but what's his idea? In other words, the idea is that when it comes to washing leather, because the water doesn't get into it, so it's not similar enough to washing to be considered washing on a Torah level at all, and on a rabbinic level, certainly if you're just putting the water on it without scrubbing it. But if the water gets into it, you understand? So therefore, it is effectively able to wash it in a much more fundamental way. You see what I'm saying? How does the water wash a garment? Because it penetrates the garment, and that's how it gets out the stuff that's inside of it. You understand what I'm saying? So even if it's not penetrating each individual thread, but it's getting into the garment, and that's how it's able to get out the dirt that's in the garment, and that is an effective washing, and therefore it is considered washing. You see what I'm saying? You with me?
Sort of. So if it's washable, it's a problem. Is that the conclusion?
That's what it seems, yes. I'll just finish off with a little discussion that he brings here. This is in the Dirshu Shulchan Aruch, the Dirshu Mishnah Berurah. He brings from Shlomo Zalman a very interesting question. What about contact lenses? Many of which, the soft ones, are permeable. And you take them out, you put them in the solution, and the solution goes through it. It's not like just a plastic piece that sits in the solution, but the solution actually goes from one side to the other. So he says maybe that's a problem. He says that you cannot actually put it into a solution if it needs cleaning. If it needs cleaning, you shouldn't put it into a solution on Shabbos because that could be considered cleaning. If it's clean and you just put it in there to maintain the moisture, because otherwise it dries out and it becomes no good, then he says you can rely on the opinion we're going to see later that there's no cleaning a clean garment. We're going to see later that machlok is about that. If you take a clean garment and you drop it in water, is that considered cleaning or not? On the one hand, you're putting it in water. On the other hand, it's already clean, so you're not accomplishing anything. So we're going to see a machlok about that. So when it comes to contact lenses, he says you can rely on that opinion if it's clean. But if it actually needs cleaning, he says you shouldn't put it into a solution on Shabbos. I'm sorry? He doesn't say that. Why? Why? I don't know. He's talking about the cleaning it afterwards, but using it, I don't see why not. Okay, my friends.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Wish you all a good week.
And it appears that the new Shulchan Aruch is out.
Oh, it is?
It is out, and I'm hopefully getting a copy when a friend comes back from New York.
Nice. Thank you for the good news. Is it online?
Yes, it is online.
Wow. Big simcha.
Which book?
Next week.
Which book?
The Siman 302 is apparently now online in the.
Oh, sorry, online. No. I thought you meant is the book purchasable online? The book is. I'm not aware that whether or not it is actually online in terms of the text.
We'll find out. Very good. So my students in London and LA and New York are all exempt from attending my birthday for Brangen. However, you, Yossi.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. You, Yossi, in Hollywood, I'm not going to exempt you so easily. Thursday night at Mirz Hashem, 8:30.
Yeah, I think I'll go.
All right. Have a good.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
All the best.